Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for joining us.
And folks, if you're wondering, I want y'all to take a look at this. I just made a beautiful trip to the Comedy Barn in Tennessee, and they tell me as soon as I wear this shirt out, they'll give me another one for free.
I'm just pleased you can now follow instructions and not wear green on camera. Never wear the color green on camera. I'm just pleased about that.
Oh well, I'm surprised you don't want me to wear green more often, you tree hugger.
Not on this show.
Folks, we at Santa Rosa Week TV, including Best Boy and the dog, wherever the dog's at.
Oh, we should quickly just apologize for we ran the same show. We had a 3-week hiatus. We ran the same show. We just want to let everybody know.
Right. Well, those were important shows.
Yes.
Freedom of speech,
yes,
and the freedom to speak at government meetings, and we've got some other stuff for the next two shows, but we are going to get back on that issue again. We at Santa Rosa Week TV took on the task. A county citizen, Etta Lawler, gave me a call and said, "Hey, there's a huge safety issue in the Pullum Industrial Park." And
it was giant holes that were
giant
uncovered.
holes. Storm drains were not covered. Those storm drains, as we showed you in an earlier show, were 9.5 feet deep. No way to get out of them. And so we kind of took that as a personal matter. We did a couple shows. We talked about it. We reached out to the commission. We reached out to Road and Bridges, and in general, we made it very well known that we wanted something done about it.
And the issue was, the county said that the developer and the owner, Mr. Bill Pullum, was responsible for covering the holes.
Right.
And Pullum had, from what we heard from the county, indicated that he thought the county,
Right.
i.e. the taxpayer, should pay for it.
The bottom line is, folks, I'm happy to report that the safety issue, as I said in an earlier show, I don't want to be part of the argument. I didn't want to be part of a funeral when a child falls in the bottom of the hole and dies. Okay, so we got the right answer. The owner of the property made the correction and paid for it. And I'm just going to pat ourselves on the back because I don't believe those grates would ever been put there if we hadn't kept the heat on.
Well, I believe that we taxpayers would have ultimately ended up paying for it.
Well, exactly. And as we've also discussed earlier, I don't know. I guess I'll say it this way. It is my show, and I can't make any advertisers mad. So we've noticed a trend of the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Department, what appears to be a private security firm for Mr. Bill Pullum on that road, and person after person has been stopped. I recently was heading down 87, and I watched the sheriff's deputy in great haste pull in behind the vehicle that I was in and immediately pull into the industrial property to go down there and see something. But we had one of our citizens. It
kind of reminded me of like when I go in the kitchen and make a sandwich and my dog's lurking, and then as soon as I leave, he runs into the kitchen to see what fell.
There you go. Well, one of our citizens, Etta Lawler, had finally had enough of the harassment, and
I think interrogation.
Interrogation. So she spoke up at the county commission meeting, and we think you should take a look at that.
Who paid for the covers on the risers?
The developer.
The developer did, yeah. Because after I got your email, then I went to the developer, and he kept saying that, his office, and they were selling it as county.
And just for the board's clarification on that issue, the final plat does convey to the public the improvements and the rights of way. There's a second step that you're taking Thursday that actually accept those improvements for maintenance, and that was a question mark he appeared to not be clear on.
Right, because we're kind of going around in a circle. One thing, so those are public roads. Just like the road I live on. It's a public road.
Yes.
Okay. Because last month I was interrogated by a deputy for being on Technology Drive, and I believe it was public road. It's owned by Santa Rosa County. And there's no indication up there that it was private road. And that was owned by Mr. Pullum. And I'm telling you, I was not very impressed with the approach and the double standards used by the sheriff's office on that. And I've been meaning to try to get a hold of Sheriff Hall and talk to him about that. Because if these are, I was not trespassing on any property. He came in there 90 miles an hour after me, and I just saw him coming. I'm thinking, I'm going to get a speeding ticket. What's the speed limit in here? 25 miles an hour? So I just nicely pulled over, and then I get the big lecture, you know, about why he was doing this, and I said, man, this is according to Greg Brown, this road is owned by the county, you know, and he kept saying, well, Mr. Pullum owns all this. This is not the road. I said, I believe the county owns the road. And that's where I was, on the road. And it was before a commission meeting because I was going down to see if the covers had been put on. So I think there just needs to be a clarification on who actually owns the road. And I know from experience in the past with the vacant lot next to us in Navarre, when people were cutting through that private property, I talked to one of the deputies, and there was things you had to do. You had to put up no trespassing signs before they could come out and do something. And I know there's people, according to the deputies, that are going through to American farms. Well, if that's the case, there shouldn't be these two double standards. What they need to do is go down and barricade that road on private property, which I wasn't anywhere near, and put up no trespassing signs if they're going to have the deputy patrol out there, just like what I was told on the vacant land, that you have to post it. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. You know, Deborah, I thought we had sent a couple messages through our TV show that we were well aware of the Sheriff's Department insistence on that road, and we made it very aware that it is a public highway. We verified those that it is a public highway in 2 different locations, and we discussed it on the show. Yet it was still going on.
Well, so. No, I think she's talking about the first time.
Right, but it's continued to happen after that. There are continued trips, but hopefully, you know, I don't know. If should Wendell Hall decide to run again, I don't know. I think I know a fella that's going to bring it up as an issue. Second part of this show, folks, and we're going to do this as briefly as we can, but the issue came before the Board of County Commissioners this week.
Yes, the Navarre Town Center. The
Navarre Town Center. And let me, I'm gonna let Deborah, I'm gonna turn Deborah loose here in a minute, but I do want to say one thing. That whole process started with Bill Pullum.
Well, it started with a man named Mr. Spegner who wanted to put high-rises on the south side.
Right.
Jimmy Spegner.
And then Mr. Pullum purchased a large tract of land, and so all this began. So Deborah, run through the scenario.
That was a little bit later. What happened was that there was a developer who wanted to put some, I believe it was 3-story high-rises on the south side, which exceeded the height limit.
Right.
And he applied for a variance. This was back in December of '03, if I remember correctly. Had about 200 citizens show up at that hearing from Navarre.
An angry mob with burning pitchforks.
Yeah. And so what happened was they tabled the decision until they could go through this so-called public input process where they would come up with this future growth plan.
Actually, one thing that occurred there was a bus of people came from Navarre.
Yes.
They chartered a bus.
Yeah.
Came to a county commission meeting. If you're coming before the planning board, if you pull the item off the agenda before the meeting starts, you can reapply for it again. If you leave it on the agenda and it gets voted down, you have to wait 6 months before it can go on the agenda again. So when they saw the angry mob, they pulled it off the agenda.
Yeah.
So
what happened was then they initiated this Navarre Town Center public input, just like economic development. That's one of these air quotes phrases process. They announced meetings. People were supposed to come discuss how they felt like it's not all of Navarre. It's this core town center business district area.
And they did have fairly good participation in the beginning.
In the beginning, they had good participation. What ended up happening was that you had and I was at some of these meetings, I saw this, you had a significant group of people in the meetings who did not want the high rises. And at that time they were talking about 200-foot high rises.
Right.
And they didn't want that. And they were a significant opposition group to that. So what happened was a steering committee.
They divvied up the committees.
Yeah, a steering committee was assigned to basically make all of the final recommendations. They would vote on it.
Right.
And guess what? None of the anti-high-rise people ended up on that steering committee, and so on and so forth.
And the high rises got voted in.
The high rises, that was the gist of it. The high rises got voted in. The other thing that happened was the final meeting for all this was held the night Hurricane Ivan was rolling into town.
Right.
I was there. Many people did.
Let me stop there for a minute. Folks, this bears repeating. Pay attention. You in all of this argument, you're going to hear our county leaders telling you, oh, well, I'll read in my notes that it was well, and we had meeting after meeting, and we got community input. Now, Deborah, say that again. On the night
Hurricane Ivan was rolling in
was one of the meetings.
Was the final meeting where the final vote was taken on this plan that was also developed by a steering committee that excluded,
what a
folks,
what a wonderful time. You see everybody is bunkered down. They've got their MREs. They're holding tight to their wife, their guns, and their bottle of water, wondering what's going to happen tonight. But the people that wanted the high rises, they ventured out into the teeth of the storm.
They showed up
because they just want to be part of the community.
Well, and that's the thing is because...
But nobody else was there but them.
Well, and no, actually, still a significant group of people did show up who were against, and
but they weren't on that committee.
Nobody wants these high rises.
Right.
But it was voted in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They stacked it. They had enough people show up, stacked it from whichever groups came and knew enough to have the vote in there. I'll tell you, I was working for a local newspaper at the time, and we went out and asked people on the street, what do you think about this? And I don't think we had one person respond that said, yeah, well, they should put high rises in.
And it was another thing that Gordon Gooden facilitated.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, folks, I said in one county commission meeting when there were still people that were throwing rocks at this whole idea. In Gordon Gooden's response, that is former commissioner of Santa Rosa County who was summarily defeated when he actually had competition running against him. He actually stated in a county commission meeting that it was better to plan on it because they were going to leave gaps in between the high rises, so you'd still be able to see.
Peepholes. Yeah, they were peepholes.
So you'd still be able to see the horizon.
You would not believe some of the ridiculous conversations that went on at these meetings. They came up with these very detailed Byzantine color schemes.
Right.
I mean, these are people with a lot of time on their hands.
Right.
But here's the most ridiculous part that I saw was this whole kind of theme of we want it to be an authentic seaside, want to feel like an authentic seaside area. And then you have I distinctly remember the conversation where one woman said, well, is there any way we could zone against the dollar store, the Dollar General?
Right.
Because
don't want them in here.
Too cheap.
Yeah.
And then another lady, it was bizarre. Another lady I remember wanted for them to zone against those little curio shops, the junk shops,
right.
And they've got
the tourist traps.
Well, they've got the stuff on the front lawn for
right.
sale and little seashells and things. They wanted them to zone against that, and that is what an authentic seaside town looks
exactly,
like. In other words, take the seaside out of it,
right.
And they want this ridiculous, like watercolor. Looks like a plastic, fantastic Disney World type. This is what they finally
right.
ended up, and it's very Byzantine
right.
standards. And the upshot of it is now the business owners down there, many of them
pushing back.
Well, they want those restrictions lifted. The requirements on your roof has to be this high and it has to look like this
right.
and be this color and you can have brown on white but not white on brown.
And now comes to the point in time where Jerry's going to do his rant.
Well, let me just say this real fast because there's two parts to this. There's the those restrictions that a lot of the business owners, my sense is, want lifted because it's it's expensive, and we'll hear from one lady later on. And the other side of it is they also want to add benches and trees
right.
and sidewalks and things that they want to, improvements to this.
And they want the taxpayers to front it for them.
Well, they want the local property owners to cough up it's a MSBU where they would all pay incrementally, every year they pay a couple $100s or whatever it ended up being. But they want them to, it would have to be voted in. Now, I will tell you, originally when they came up with the scheme, what was being floated was a special assessment, which means there would have been no vote. They would have just said, you people in this area.
We're drawing a circle and everybody in there.
Exactly.
Welcome to the new tax.
That was the original. There were enough angry people, and it just didn't happen. Now they want the MSBU where they have to vote it in. I mean, I think that, if they voted in, they voted in.
Here's the bottom line for me, folks. To start out with, you're going to see me say basically the same thing in the video. I've never seen anything. It just amazes me. When we look at things that Pullum has been involved with.
The Pullum experience.
And the Pullum experience. And when we look at a piece of property that was valued at $900,000 and we paid $3.2 million for it. And for the Navarre Town Center complex, we tied up staff, we had special meetings, we videotaped, and we did this, and we just broke our backs to so that we could all be part of the Pullum experience. And so we did all of this stuff.
And now there are other property owners, we should say that. He owns a big chunk of it.
Yeah, but there are other property owners, but he was the largest property owner when all this started, and then he started selling some to other people.
He owns a big chunk.
Yes.
7 acres, I think.
And so here we are. They did exactly what they wanted to. Now they're not happy with it, and they're tying up my commission again.
Well, no, here is what happened. Was the developers wanted to be able to build high-rises. They wanted the housing side of it. And so they came up with this whole rigmarole to push the high-rises through. And what they ended up doing was imposing these ridiculous appearance standards on the businesses down there. And now the so-called economic development this was going to bring is actually, according to a lot of these business owners, actually
killing it.
Yeah, it's killing the business because they can't afford to make these changes and plant these trees and all this other stuff.
And one of the things that Commissioner Melvin said was, he said, you don't have a funding source.
Yeah.
You're gonna ask, and let's say that Deborah said at MSBU, it's not actually taxpayer dollars that are going to go to this, but it's tying up our county to take the time to fund this, to set it up, to handle the note and all that kind of stuff. It basically winds up as a lien on all of these properties. And my belief is it's going to go flat anyhow, and now down the road we're going to be involved in a legal struggle trying to get our money back.
Should be.
Yeah,
that's a risk.
Look, anybody who wants to develop something, go develop it.
Yeah, put your own benches and trees in.
Absolutely right. Amen. Amen. I'm tired of bailing out everybody's harebrained idea. It's America.
Yeah.
Risk your own money. Risk your own time. Quit asking government to take all the risk away from you.
Well, and theoretically, the property owners will have to vote on this. Those who would be affected.
Well, they got to get 60% of them to vote for it.
There is some concern that the MSBU area could be arbitrarily just increased, and there would be no vote.
According to state law, they can keep expanding that.
So in other words, even if you never voted for it, if they expand it into your area, that's really the real danger right there.
Right. Yeah, taxation without representation. But the bottom line is, those property owners, including Mr. Pullum, they were the ones that wanted to start this deal. They got what they asked for. Now they're not happy with it. Now they want a funding source. It's not working out for them. So bail me out,
Yeah.
make changes so this thing will work. I'm sick of it, folks. I'm done with it. You watching this program today, when you go down and get your building permit, I don't see Santa Rosa County running down there helping you out on financing or sending a person down to the bank to fill out paperwork for you. They say, here's your permit to build your house. The inspector will be by and take a look at it. We wish you the best. All right? But in this one, I do not understand. For goodness sakes, Mr. Pullum just got $3.4 or $3.2 million out of Santa Rosa County taxpayers. Reach in that pocket, Mr. Pullum. Spend some of the $3.2 million you just got from us and leave us out of it. Okay, I'm done. I feel better.
Well, all I'll just reiterate is the lesson here that's just so clear is the parasitism. You've got these developers who are parasites now off the business community.
Yep.
Because and we'll hear from this one lady who's thousands of dollars she's
gonna kill her business. She's gonna move out of there.
Trees every 10 feet and this and that and the other thing. And,
absolutely. One final thought. As a board of county commissioners, if you are not prepared to do the same thing for the widow woman on a fixed income who has no political clout, if you're not prepared to do the same thing for her that you are for the multi-millionaire, if you're not going to run it straight down the middle and take care of the citizens of Santa Rosa County the same way, I think you're in the wrong line of business. I don't believe your heart's in the right place. And I, for one, am sick and tired of government taking all the risk away from developers. You want to develop something? Go get fun. We'll give you a permit. We might even let you use a road grader to fix your turn lane in there. We might help you out just a little bit. But outside of that, you need to assume all the risks. If it don't work out, don't come crying to us.
And I'm just going to, one prediction. I don't believe an MSBU will pass. I believe they're going to try to push a TIF district through on this, where they just basically...
they're not done yet.
They force people and they say, well, your housing values will go up. That's your benefit if you ever can sell your house.
Yeah, they're not done. So we got a couple more video clips from that commission meeting. We felt like it was very important that you see that, and we'll go ahead and sign off. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Good night.
I own a little coffee shop called Higher Ground Coffee. It's right on Highway 98, right when you go to turn up 87. I'm not fortunate enough to own the property. I'm just leasing it. I don't know of anything in the town center plan that gives me access to funding to do the upgrades that are required because the landowner won't do them. Do you all know of anywhere I can get money to put 36 more bushes and 8 more canopy trees on this property? NARB has granted me a variance because of the oil spill last year. I have until the fall of this year to add curbing for parking lot spaces, bring in the landscaping I mentioned. I'm supposed to, I wrote a letter to Commissioner Melvin. I hope he shared it with you all of all the things I've had to do just to just open my doors and stay in business in Navarre. The things that are just the silliest things, like when I went to NARB for the first time to get my paint colors approved. And granted, I've lived in Navarre since 1985. I've seen a lot of businesses come and go. Like I said, I'm not fortunate enough to be the property owner and to benefit from all these developments, because if I have to close my doors and walk away, I've gained nothing but a negative checkbook balance because of the upgrades I've had to do for town center plan. When I went before NARB to get my paint colors approved, the architect who was sitting there making a professional recommendation made me switch my color scheme. So now I have a little brown box, dark brown box of a building with light tan trim. That's not what I wanted. I wanted a lighter shade on the background and darker accents. When we were painting the building, I had some friends volunteer and help us take care of the project. They thought, well, to break up the color of it, let's add a few pinstripes in the siding. I had 4 violation threats from Santa Rosa County Planning and Zoning because I didn't get my pinstriping approved. 4 different threats in writing. I have emails and copies of memos if you need them. That's just one of the things. My dumpster. I was supposed to screen my dumpster so that it wasn't visible from public view. My dumpster is located behind an 8-foot privacy fence, and the only thing that can see the back of my dumpster is a mobile home that has been gutted and torn down, and the roof is falling in. And again, it's on my property. I do not lease the back half of my property, so I'm not supposed to touch it. The property owner who's been gracious with us. We were hit really hard with the oil spill, being a brand new business. We opened in November of 2009. He's been very gracious with us to work with us on being in arrears. He can't afford to do the upgrades. Otherwise, I think he would help us. But he's a property owner right there in this town center plan, and he leased the building to me as is. As a new business coming on, I didn't budget tens of thousands of dollars to bring in cosmetic things that to me don't make sense. The property looks, I think, very pleasing. I mean, we have a growing customer base. I've actually had tons of requests to add on. But the thought of pitching a remodel to NARB and to comply with all the town center red tape we've been through is so daunting that I've actually considered just moving somewhere else. And I'm not alone in this, because I talk to business owners and prospective business owners in Navarre all the time. I mean, I'm a coffee shop. Lots of things get talked about in there. Everyone I speak to feels the same way, that the town center plan and the Heart of Navarre requirements are doing nothing but hindering potential new businesses in Navarre. So I would like to propose that this board not just pass this off as one more issue that the South Santa Rosa County citizens need to deal with themselves, because it's not just about what we've come up with. It's been my experience that certain personnel within Santa Rosa County Planning and Zoning use NARB as a crutch. If they don't want to deal with you, they say, oh, you have to pitch that to the NARB, the next NARB meeting, which only meets once a month. Then, when they do get a decision from NARB that's not necessarily to their liking, and this is all in my letter to Commissioner Melvin, then they tell us that NARB doesn't have the final say on things like variances. They can make recommendations, but it ultimately falls on Santa Rosa County planning and zoning employees to make the actual decision. So I'm caught in the middle. I want to do certain things to build my business, but I feel very restricted. I don't know, like I said, financing is the problem. I'm just trying to build my business. I'm a year into it now, a year and a half, and I don't have the money to make the upgrades that are required.